1. This happened about 8 months ago. I was working as a salesman selling cars for an import dealership, and I met a customer named Arnold. I met Arnold on the lot, and he informed me he was looking for a truck because he was interested in towing a boat. Arnold was a very unpleasant and cantankerous person, and tried hard to get across how successful and rich he was. I didn't think much of it because you tend to see people at their worst when they are trying to buy a vehicle. After some haggling and back and forth stuff, I succeeded in closing the deal and thankfully said goodbye to Arnold and his new truck. I thought this was the end of my ordeal with Arnold, and went on with my week. A few days later, Arnold returned to the dealership and was irate, telling me he talked to his friend and said I ripped him off, which I did not. In fact, Arnold had gotten a good deal because I just wanted to stop dealing with him and basically dropped my pants, and made a flat commission to get him to buy the truck and screw off. I told Arnold he got a good deal and can review the paperwork with me to ensure there was no mistake. He called me a thief and a liar and said, "You haven't seen the last of me," before walking away. Now, Arnold was easily in his late 60s, and I wasn't particularly worried about his bluster. But he came back twice more that week to complain about the vehicle, the deal, and basically everything he could to try to get out of the truck. I said I was sorry he felt that way, but the deal was done. I had done nothing wrong, and one way or another, this was his truck now. 2 weeks went by, and sure enough, one morning there is Arnold standing in the dealership. This time he was acting more reasonable, and I thought he made his peace with his decision and was going to take his lumps and get into another vehicle. I greeted him and he said, "Hi, Seal Pup 6. I guess the truck won't work, but if I can get a larger SUV that'll tow the boat, I'd look at that." So I said I would show him another vehicle, one of our larger SUV models. At this point he seemed much more agreeable and easy to deal with. Nothing like the old fart I'd dealt with the first time. Kind of a red flag. But I chalked it up to him feeling embarrassed about his behavior over the previous weeks. So we get everything set up and go on a test drive. After a few minutes I notice Arnold is not following the test drive route I have designated for us, and is beginning to drive more recklessly than you usually see on a test drive, and merges onto the highway. At this point I ask Arnold to drive more carefully, and he just gets this bizarre look in his eyes and says to me, "Do you think you survive?" "Survive what?" I asked. "If I crashed this car right now, would you survive?" he repeated. "I don't know, Arnold. Hopefully yes. Would you?" He didn't respond and continued to accelerate. At this point Arnold is driving erratically and dangerously, and I inform him that this test drive is over to pull the vehicle over to the shoulder, and that I was taking us back to the dealership. He responds by yelling, "You ripped me off! Do you want to live?" and pulled a screwdriver out of his jacket. I entered emergency mode and grabbed for the screwdriver, while Arnold tried to fight me off and drive one-handed. The vehicle was swerving dangerous around the highway at 120 kilometers per hour, but I was able to wrestle the screwdriver away from Arnold and throw the vehicle gear shift into park, which caused it to glide to a stop on the side of the road. As soon as the car slowed down enough, I jumped out just in time for Arnold to put the car back in gear and speed off, leaving me in the side of the highway, miles from work. So now Arnold has attacked me and stolen our vehicle. A driver pulled over for me and said he was driving the other direction and noticed me fighting Arnold and the SUV swerving around, so he came back to investigate. He gave me a ride back to work, where I discovered the SUV parked haphazardly in the entrance to the lot, door open, but Arnold is nowhere to be found. We had a copy of his driver's license on file, and it took the police about an hour to find and arrest Arnold. I had to go to court in November to recount this story to the judge. And Arnold, because of his age, the fact that I was physically unharmed, and he returned the once stolen vehicle, got off lightly. I quit a month later. The entire episode left me angry and bitter. So insane, customer Arnold. I hope we never meet again, and so should you. 2. This is from my sophomore year of high school. Take in mind that some of the reasons why the whole scenario lasted so long was because I was extremely shy and was having problems with extreme anxiety. This whole experience has helped me learn to speak up for myself. It was the beginning of the school year, and I had a gym class as my first period. I went to class normally for a few days, but I had noticed that some girl had been staring at me off and on, I didn't think it was anything to worry about, a big mistake on my part. One day before class started, we were all hanging out in one corner of the gym, listening to our teacher's story of how he tripped and fell in a huge puddle of mud. I was sitting on a pile of yoga mats, staring off into space, but still paying attention. I then heard a girl's voice say, "Teacher, I have a story to tell too. I finally have found my best friend that I haven't seen in years. She doesn't even recognize me." I was snapped out of my staring spell and looked towards the voice to find that she was pointing directly at me. I foolishly said, "Oh, no, I remember you," and read off the name that was written across her gym shirt, Ellie, because I didn't want to seem like a jerk for not remembering her. Ellie instantly brightened up that I remembered her, and then proceeded to lift herself up onto the yoga mats and sit uncomfortably close to me, enough that our entire bodies were squished together. I didn't say anything because I didn't feel it was necessary to cause a huge problem out of this, because there was obviously something up with her mentally, and I didn't want to be a dick about it. The class went on, and Ellie and I were not in the same group, so I didn't have any problem with her that day. The next few days we didn't have any assigned class groups, so Ellie was trailing behind me like a dog. She was starting to get extremely protective and forceful with me. I don't get cold very easily, but she insisted that I wear her jacket and would not leave me alone until I finally wore it. She also started to say things about hurting my actual friends, which was the final straw to me. "Do whatever you want to me, but as soon as you bring my friends into it, I'm going to do something about it." I was finally going to bring it up to our principal. Putting that whole thing behind, our class today had the option of either volleyball or walking around the perimeter of the room. I decided to just walk around the room, and had been doing that for around 15 minutes, until I sat on the ground by the bleachers to tie my shoes. Ellie dropped down to the ground and watched me with extreme interest. All of a sudden she grabbed my wrist and held our forearms together. "We have the same veins, you want to know why? Because we were in the womb together. I used to hug you when you were scared in the womb," she said. This line freaked me out a lot at the time. One, our veins looked nothing alike. She had one visible vein, while mine branched out into multiple. Two, we looked nothing alike, and she was a year older than me. I decided to run off to the bathroom before I really freaked out, and stayed in there for almost the rest of the class. I returned later for the end of class roll call, and left to go to the locker room. Ellie got dressed quickly and was just staring at me half naked getting dressed. It made me really uncomfortable. I lied and told her that I had to leave quickly because I had to meet up with my boss at Olive Garden, and hightailed it out of there and to my next class. My next class teacher, who I trust dearly, had called me up to talk to her privately in her class, and she said that Ellie had been talking about me non-stop in the class that she has her in. She recommended me to go to the police as soon as possible, and she'll talk to the principal. This scared the shit out of me. What in the absolute hell did my teacher know about Ellie that she would tell me to go to the police, of all people? I called my mom and skipped the rest of the day. I stayed home the next day and went to the police station with my mom. They brought us into a room, and I started off with just telling them the basic story of what was going on. I didn't even say her name. The guy that was talking to us said, "Ellie Smith?" I was dumbfounded. How did he know exactly who I was talking about? He went on talking about how she's in the police station a lot, but couldn't go into specifics because she was a minor. This didn't help with my anxiety. What the hell did she do to be in the police station multiple times? The police couldn't really do anything, so the only thing I could do was switch my class. I was pissed off because I made a few good friends in that gym class, and I had to restart with a whole new class. But at least I was away from Ellie. The new class went fine, but over the course of the year I would always run into Ellie in the halls. My friend even saw her turn around and look at me with one of the most terrifying faces she had ever seen in real life. She would always yell things along the lines of, "I'm gonna get you, Mercifer," which was extremely unnerving to me. I didn't want her near me or my friends, so I began stepping up and telling the vice principal himself whenever one of these instances occurred. This kept happening over the course of my sophomore year. I was hoping that she would forget about me because I had figured out that we had never actually met before the gym class. I never hung out with anyone other than my friend Paige in the time Ellie said we were best friends. And I even checked all of my yearbooks, not one thing even mentioning Ellie Smith. The morning of the first day of junior year, I ran into her before I even started my first class. I tried not to make eye contact. Later that day, the principal called me in and told me that Ellie said I flipped her off, which I didn't. I didn't even look at her. This whole game with threats and random incoherent screeches continued on through my junior year as well. And I feel like part of the whole high school experience was taken from me because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to avoid her. She graduated and thankfully was gone during my senior year. This whole experience has honestly both traumatized me and helped me grow as a person. I had learned how to assert myself more than I have ever done before, but I still swear I see her out of the corner of my eye. It's caused some paranoia that still hasn't completely gone away. Yeah, so Ellie Smith, let's not meet again. Edit. I had forgotten to put that at one point she had my phone number that I gave her when I didn't think anything was wrong. I apparently wrote down the wrong number, thank God, and she tried to call me like 35 times. She got very angry and kept repeating, "I'm going to tackle you if you ever do that again," when I saw her in class the next day. 3. My first day moving into student halls, I was greeted by a very friendly guy called Dominic. He was very camp and obviously gay, but I didn't have a problem with that. He offered to help me unpack in my room, then go for a drink with me. Although I thought this was a little overfamiliar, I was delighted that I had made a friend so quickly and accepted his offer. He put a tremendous amount of effort in helping me put everything in the appropriate places in my room. We then went for a drink at the student bar. I made a point to tell him I was straight, as I suspected he might have a bit of a crush on me. Hence why he was being so nice. However, he didn't show any signs of dismay and continued chatting to me. I liked him a lot. He was very intelligent and interesting to talk to, and I was very pleased that I had a new friend already. I was worried that I'd be lonely in the uni dorms. He didn't live in the same building as me, he lived just across. I was studying creative writing and he was studying business, but we started to hang out a lot. Although I liked Dominic, I did start to find him a little overbearing. He would send me texts and message me on Facebook all the time, and would get upset if I didn't reply, even if it was only for about 5 minutes. He would always want to know what I was doing, and if I disappeared off Facebook for a while, he would want to know where I'd been all day. One time I even sent him a text mentioning I was on a train, and he texted me back, "Why are you on a train? Why am I not invited to where you're going?" I was on my way to my part-time job. I made quite a few other friends, and he would always show visible signs of displeasure whenever they were around, and whenever I talked to him about them. He would tell me he disliked them and that I shouldn't trust them. He was very possessive, and I personally can't stand clingy friends, so I tried to distance myself from him a bit. But the more I pulled away, the tighter he held. I still hung out with him and still cared about him, but I was starting to worry about where this friendship was going. I was pretty sure this guy had a crush on me, and soon my suspicions were confirmed. I met this girl at a party I went to called Anna, and asked her out on a date. She accepted. I was really thrilled and told Dominic about it. The second I told him, his face fell. "Why are you going on a date with her?" he asked me, sounding very worried. 'Cause I want to," I said. "But I'm going to be jealous," he said. "Please don't go, it'll really hurt me." "You wouldn't want to hurt me. I'm your best friend." I had never actually told him that he was my best friend before, and I found the way he was acting now both annoying and a little creepy. "I'm sorry, but I told you I was straight before, Dominic," I said. "We can still be friends, but I'm not going to stop dating just for you." He remained sulky and miserable for the rest of the night. I told myself that he'd have to accept it and get over it soon. But when I was on the date with Anna, I kept getting phone calls from unknown numbers. I answered at first, but I couldn't hear anything on the other end. It was just as though someone was listening. I started to ignore the calls, but you would not believe how frequently they were coming in. They were coming in non-stop, and I couldn't even tell the time because they seriously would not stop. I had to put my phone on airplane mode. After about an hour of my phone in airplane mode, I switched airplane mode off, But the very second I did, the calls came in again. Although I was unnerved, I enjoyed my date with Anna, and we agreed to meet up again. When I got home from the date, Dominic was waiting right outside my dorm, his phone in his hand. "How was your date? Do you like her?" he asked, sounding miserable. "Yeah, I do," I told him. "Was that you who kept calling me?" "No," he said, but he was obviously lying. "But anyway, I've been waiting to tell you. I hear Anna's a massive slut. She sleeps around with loads of guys. You should stay away. She'll break your heart." Anna had no mutual connections with Dominic, so I asked him how he could possibly know about this. He just told me he'd done his research. I was angered and told him it was none of his business and that I'd find out for myself. He started crying, saying how he was just worried about me and stormed off. I think he was hoping I'd follow him, but I didn't, and went to my room, angry that he would try to interfere with my life like this. I have had unrequited crushes on friends before, but if they don't feel the same, I never try to force it. But Dominic only got worse. When I got back to my student room, Dominic had sent me screenshots on Facebook of a conversation he had allegedly had with Anna. The messages showed her boasting to him about how she was using me, and how she was planning to break my heart. Obviously this didn't ring true at all, as 1, how would she even know who Dominic was, and why would she message him, and 2, why would she tell a friend of mine so openly what her plans for me were, when he would obviously show me? I demanded that he show me the conversation from Anna on his computer screen with me there, but he told me that he had deleted the conversations because they were too upsetting for him to read. I knew right there and then that Dominic was deliberately trying to ruin my relationship with Anna through incredibly deceitful and despicable means, and I told him that I wasn't interested in him, that I never would be, and he better stop right now. He told me I was being a terrible friend, that all he was doing was trying to look out for me, and that he couldn't believe I was believing a stranger over him. I was seriously pissed off with the way he was selfishly trying to manipulate me now, and blocked him on social media. He started sending me constant texts and calling me non-stop every day, telling me things like he was so depressed over me, that he started taking heroin and that he was contemplating suicide, basically trying to make me worry. He would also constantly send me texts saying he knew Anna was cheating on me, me and her started dating properly, and that I had to come to my senses. He was creeping me out so much that I went to stay with my parents for a bit, as I wasn't comfortable living in the same area as him. I had to block his number because the phone calls were so constant. People from my uni dorm were sending me angry messages because Dominic had told them a really twisted version of what was going on, making them think that Anna was a dirty STD-ridden whore who I had betrayed him for. It then turned out that he had been lying to everyone, telling them him and me were in a romantic sexual relationship, and that I cheated on him with Anna, then left him for her. I furiously set everyone straight, told them that I had never been in a relationship with Dominic, and that everything he told them about Anna was bullshit. Most people believed me, although it took a while to convince everyone that Dominic was the liar. He was very manipulative, and although a lot of his lies were ludicrous, he was very good at making himself sound legit. I decided to go back to my uni dorm after a while, as it was inconvenient for me to stay at my parents' while at uni. Their house was far away from it. I arrived back there quite late, as I really didn't want to run into Dominic. I was so angry about him. I had a new girlfriend and studies to think about. Yet because of his fucking obsession and harassment, he was now all I could think about. In a very twisted way, I think this was what he wanted, positively or negatively. He wanted me thinking about him. When I got back, I just lay down in my bed thinking about what to do when suddenly, smash! Fucking brick came flying through my window. I jumped a mile and rolled over the side of my bed, hiding there for a moment, thinking it was burglars coming in or something. But nothing more happened. Once I got over the shock, I cautiously stepped over the broken glass and tried to look out of the window. When I got a phone call off a number I didn't recognize, I answered it, and it was Dominic. And you will not believe what he said. "I just saw Anna throw a brick through your window and run," he shouted. "I told you she was bad news. You should have listened to me, I told you." You would not believe the rage I felt. I was so angry I couldn't even speak for a moment, but then I just exploded. I screamed at him that I knew it was him, and I was calling the police right now. He tried to protest, but I hung up on him and immediately called them. When they arrived, Dominic was not in his room, but when it was opened up, a large stash of illegal drugs was found there. The manager of my student halls assured me that he'd be getting kicked out for this, and the police said they would be getting in touch with him. After this, I never saw Dominic again. I changed my phone number and never unblocked him on social media. A couple of times I was tempted to out of sheer curiosity, but decided it wasn't worth it. I think he dropped out of the uni, but I don't know exactly what happened to him. My relationship with Anna didn't last. She was never quite clear on why she ended it, but I actually suspect that Dominic's freakish behavior scared her off, even though it wasn't my fault. Ah well, life goes on. Dominic, I hope whatever issues you're going through, you sort them out. And I hope you find a guy who actually does want to be with you, but please, let's not meet again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 377. You hear that? Can you actually hear that this time? Wankers. Not you guys. The neighbors. Anyway, what was I doing? It was 377. Oh yes. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, this video, the audio for this, took me 2 hours to record. On a bad day, it should take an hour. But because they couldn't shut up to give me enough time to record, I mean, if things are going well, including retakes and everything, I can knock out about the audio, just the audio, not including the editing or anything else, for 2 videos in about 2 hours, if things go well. They couldn't shut up for that long. I was having to record a few words or a few sentences in between them doing whatever they're doing. It must be a palace. That's actually been happening off and on, not constantly, but for a couple of weeks now. My home improvement that I did the weekend there, I was done in 10 minutes. That's how quickly I was done, 10 minutes. And the noise I made, it was probably about 3 or 4 minutes worth of sawing. That was it. That's all I made them put up with. Because I'm not a... Right. Be nice, don't say rude words, Hellfreezer. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to hope I can record the next video at some point this year. And then I'll chill out once the videos are made. With... You know, I don't have Coke. I don't have any cola at all. Well, I've got cool cans in the refrigerator, so I'll relax with one of those. Okay. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.